Tom O'Carroll. Thomas Victor O'Carroll is a British writer with dual Irish/British citizenship and pro-paedophile advocate imprisoned for conspiracy to corrupt public morals and the distribution of child pornography, and with multiple convictions for sexual crimes against children. O'Carroll is a former chairman of the now disbanded Paedophile Information Exchange (PIE) and was at one time a prominent member of the International Paedophile and Child Emancipation, now known as Ipce. Earlier life. O'Carroll grew up in Coventry, attending Whitmore Park Primary School and Woodlands School. In 1967, he graduated from Lancaster University with a degree in history. He worked as a teacher at Henry Parkes Primary School and Caledon Castle School in the 1970s. As a postgraduate, O'Carroll studied education at Downing College, Cambridge. Paedophile Information Exchange. O'Carroll was working as a press officer for the Open University in the 1970s when he was told of the existence of the Paedophile Information Exchange (PIE) after admitting he was a pedophile to lesbian members of the O. At that time, he was editor of the OU staff newspaper Open House and had been covering a women's group meeting on homosexuality. In his book Paedophilia, The Radical Case, he writes, "The general public in the UK has long been aware of child molesting and perversion, but only in the 1970s did it come to hear about paedophilia, a designation suddenly lifted from the obscurity of medical textbooks to become a crusading badge of identity for those whom the term had been designed to oppress." His activism with PIA cost him his job at the OU, and he was dismissed in February 1978. O'Carroll appealed to an industrial tribunal which ruled in May 1979 rejecting his complaint, as he had placed himself in a position which meant that he could not do his job effectively because of his connection to PIA. At the time, O'Carroll sat on the National Council for Civil Liberties in CCL Subcommittee for Gay Rights. However, NCCL's association with PIA was controversial internally. The winter 1978 issue of Gay Left magazine reported that the NCCL executive had voted not to distribute a transcript of O'Carroll's speech to the organization's 1977 conference in London. Although PIE had campaigned for the age of consent to be lowered to 4 years old, O'Carroll stated that his personal view is that full sexual relations should be allowed at 12. Paedophilia, The Radical Case. O'Carroll's book Paedophilia, The Radical Case was published in 1980. "I am not interested in why I am a pedophile," he writes, "any more than others are interested in why they are normal." He advocates the normalization of adult-child sexual relationships and details his own illicit experiences. O'Carroll asserts his belief that each stage of the sexual relationship between an adult and child can be negotiated with hints and signals, verbal and nonverbal, by which each indicates to the other what is acceptable and what is not. The man might start by saying what pretty knickers the girl was wearing, and he would be far more likely to proceed to the next stage of negotiation. Mary K. Wilmers in the London Review of Books wrote, "Since Mr. O'Carroll sees nothing wrong with paedophilia, he isn't interested in our sympathy, and since his opinion of the non-paedophile world is no higher than the opinion the non-paedophile world has of him, he doesn't waste time trying to be conciliatory." At the time of its release, the book received mainstream reviews which were either scathingly dismissive, like Wilmers, or supportive of the author, if not entirely of the radical case he had set out. Sociologist Jeffrey Weeks described the book as the most sustained advocacy of intergenerational sex and stated that there were two powerful arguments against O'Carroll's views about the possibility of children consenting to sex: the feminist argument that young people, especially young girls, do need protection from adult men in an exploitative and patriarchal society. In 2003, The Guardian described it as a book justifying the behavior of those who prey on children. Conviction in 1981. In 1981, O'Carroll was convicted for conspiracy to corrupt public morals over the contacted section of the PIE magazine and was imprisoned for 2 years. Since 2002, court case in 2002. In August 2002, O'Carroll was convicted at Southwark Crown Court of importing indecent photographs of children from Qatar, which had been found by customs in October 2001 hidden in his luggage after his arrival at Heathrow Airport. In his packing cases, 94 full-frontal images of naked children aged between 2 and 10 were discovered. According to O'Carroll, they were equivalent to an art exhibition. O'Carroll was sentenced to 9 months imprisonment on 3 counts. The conviction was later overturned in November 2002 by the Court of Appeal, which held that the trial judge had been overly influenced by O'Carroll's campaigning. The photos were described in the ruling as having the quality of indecency in the context in which they were taken, but were of the kind that parents might take of their children entirely innocently. O'Carroll's name was no longer required to be added to the sex offenders register. In 2003, he made an extended appearance on the TV discussion program After Dark in a BBC revival of the series, featuring, among others, Esther Ranson and Helena Kennedy. Conviction in 2006. O'Carroll was convicted in 2006 of conspiring to distribute indecent photographs of children after supplying an undercover Metropolitan Police officer with a cache of child pornography obtained from his co-defendant. O'Carroll said the images with which he was connected had been in his possession for a very long time. A new group O'Carroll was involved in running, International Paedophile, Child Emancipation Group, and an offshoot, Gentlemen with an interesting name, had been infiltrated by an undercover police officer. According to the police, O'Carroll considered the groups as an attempt at creating an international secret society of academic child abusers. O'Carroll was arraigned on 1 June 2006 on child pornography charges. In September 2006, he admitted to 2 counts of distributing indecent images of children between 1994 and July 2005. On 20 December 2006, he was jailed for 2 years at Middlesex Guildhall Crown Court. O'Carroll was placed on the sex offenders register for 10 years and would be prevented from working with children in future. Michael Jackson's dangerous liaisons. After a gestation of many years, O'Carroll's book on singer Michael Jackson was published in 2010 under the pen name Carl Toms. The book, Michael Jackson's Dangerous Liaisons, concerns the entertainer's alleged intimate relationships with young boys. It was published in the UK by Troubadour. After publication, J. Michael Bailey, professor of psychology at Northwestern University, reviewed the book for the academic journal Archives of Sexual Behavior. Describing the author as an unapologetic pedophile, Bailey observed that the book takes a pro-pedophilic stance and argues persuasively that Jackson was almost certainly pedophilic. Bailey wrote, "The idea that pedophilic relationships can be harmless or even beneficial to children is disturbing to many people, including me. But," he continued, "O'Carroll argues against my intuitions, and he argues well." In 2010, O'Carroll's writing was affected following complaints to Amazon.com about a book by another author, Philip R. Greaves, which encouraged sexual contact between adults and children. After a campaign by outraged Amazon readers, Amazon dropped the book, along with several other books that appeared to promote pedophilia, including O'Carroll's earlier book, Paedophilia: The Radical Case. In 2019, an independent documentary, Square One, Michael Jackson, was released detailing connections with the 1993 allegations brought by Evan Chandler with an attendee of the 1986 NAMBLA conference, in which members were suggesting that if Jackson was perceived to be a pedophile, their movement would be better received by the general public. Expulsion from the Labour Party. O'Carroll joined the Labour Party after Jeremy Corbyn became party leader in September 2015. When this became public knowledge on 16 February 2016, via a report in The Times, John Mann, the Labour Member of Parliament for Bassiflaw, and other party figures advocated his immediate expulsion. A Labour Party spokesman told ITV News a few hours later that O'Carroll had been suspended on the basis that he is a safeguarding risk. The next day, the party confirmed that O'Carroll had been expelled. References equals